Hello and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today's focus is about learning about PT practice growth and marketing lessons we can learn from a 140 location clinic company with Jennifer Allen and Therapy Partners. Jennifer is the Chief Clinical Officer and Head of Marketing at Therapy Partners Group, which is a rapidly growing and expanding physical therapy practice with more than 140 clinics across 7 states and over 1,500 team members. Jennifer started her career as an orthopedic and sports physical therapist, working with athletes in baseball and softball. And then since then, she's become an entrepreneur, an executive leader, and business growth coach, and helping to scale multiple companies and leading marketing strategy across Therapy Partners' main brands. And she's also played a key role in clinic launches, acquisitions, and building education platforms for clinicians. And so Jennifer's leadership philosophy is very simple: grow your people and they'll grow your business. I absolutely love that. And today she's sharing what she's learned from marketing Therapy Partners' 140 clinic locations. So I'm excited to welcome Jennifer here. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Neil. It's exciting to be here, and as I mentioned a little earlier, just to be among the great people you've already had on the podcast. I feel extremely honored.
Oh, we're very excited to have you here. Yeah, you're one of those great people that we've had on the podcast, and I'm very excited to learn from you, and I know our listeners are too. So let's just learn a little bit about your story. You've had a tremendous story in your growth here, being a physical therapist and growing into this chief clinical officer and head of marketing. So just curious, what's that road been look like for you?
Yeah, so I'll take you back a long time ago when I graduated, and I'm going to admit this, and you have quite a few followers, so I'm telling a lot of people how old I am. So I graduated from West Virginia University in 1994, and I started my career in kind of an interesting way. I started with, as a lot of students do, they go to where they did their last clinical, worked in West Virginia for a little bit, moved to Delaware shortly after because I just needed to live at the beach for a while. And I learned a lot about private practice there. I joined a practice. I became a clinic director immediately and took on leadership as well as marketing and growth for those 2 clinics right out of school. So it was jumping into the fire, but I had a really great mentor, and that's the start of my story on this path. Fast forward, in 2000, started a private practice in Tucson, Arizona with my business partner, Tanya, and we grew that to 9 locations before we sold to, back then it was Golden Ray Therapy Partners, as many people know. And from that point on, I came into the platform, had built Body Central with that same thought process, right? You grow your people and they will grow your business. And I mean that wholeheartedly. We would bring staff in and, what's your dream? And that's how our service lines grew. That's how our education programs grew. We launched multiple ABTRI certified residency programs. We had fellowship programs, including one with Cincinnati Reds. So we just grew that. Education became the cornerstone of what we were doing in the practice as it relates to staff, as it relates to patients. And then kind of came up with this thought process of, there's really 2 main people levers in your business. And one is obviously, and first and foremost in my mind, is your staff and the people that work with you on the day-to-day, and then your patients, right? And then your referral sources, and if you're an acquiring company, it would be your future partners. So started thinking in terms of journey mapping customers. And so anyway, fast forward, moved into the role here at Therapy Partners Group. Bobby, at the time, the CEO, was very kind and kept me on the executive team, which was great. I got to do a whole lot of infrastructure building for education. And then with my love of marketing and sales, I got to also take on more and more from that aspect. And so that's how I got here in the short. That's the short version.
That's a amazing story. Thank you for sharing that, and I think it's very inspirational to a lot of people in our community because they're always looking to push themselves and move themselves forward and see what's capable. You never know what doors are going to open, right? As you move through life. But I love your philosophy there. I think it really resonates with me because that's how we got to where we are today with practice promotions, and that's really investing in your people. So first off, it's finding the right people, right? Bringing the right people into your company, and then sometimes we forget that we have to develop those people further continuously, right? And so investing in their growth, helping them grow as individuals, learning what they really want to do, right? Like some people have different passions on what they could be good at in your office. Maybe it's more administrative, maybe it's more, clinical education. It could be all kinds of different ways that you can help someone grow in their position. And just like you, where you started off in the actual clinical aspect of it, but then being introduced, hey, you can start marketing, right? And you found that's a passion for you that you enjoy, right? And grow from there. So I love your philosophy there. Makes a lot of sense to me, and you kind of kept that at your core. I love that. And so just kind of curious, it, you know, I've definitely seen therapy partners evolution and growth. I mean, we were talking before. I've known Bobby, who kind of started it off with Golden Bear for many years over back when we were doing business training together and things like that. So just kind of curious, what do you think therapy partners has been able to expand to 140 locations?
Well, I think the part at the core here is one of the reasons that when I was choosing who to go with, when we did the transaction, it was philosophy and was the number one thing for me, right? So I'm looking at the deals and trying to decide, and from a people first philosophy, this group was the number one group for me. It aligned with what we were doing from an education and culture perspective, and those two things and the people that you work with, I think are super important when you're looking at, if you're going to be working with these people for a long time. That's where we're going to go. So there was alignment there. So with a philosophy of, if we do the right thing for our staff and we do the right thing for the patients, if we stay in those two lanes and we do both of those things really, really well, the beautiful thing is word of mouth marketing works not only in the patient lane, but it also works in the talent lane. So if you take care of people, they will speak and talk, and that becomes an engine for you as well. So I do believe practice owners that heard and heard the philosophy, got on board very quickly. We grew this platform very quickly at first. And so a lot of the brands came on with that philosophy. Everybody's bought into that with the unifying therapy partners group together. And I do believe that if we keep that mindset, and we are also a physical therapist led organization, so it keeps it close to the clinicians, right? So we know what it's like every day to treat patients, to be there for them, what it takes to give the care that we want to give. And I think that resonates with individual clinicians as it does practice owners that are looking for, who's that partner to take me to the next level. So I think that's all been in our favor.
I love that. Have you found that there's a tremendous amount of moving parts at that scale, right? Have you found that it's easier or harder to keep those philosophies together from all these different moving parts as you've grown?
So I think what we've done well as a team is we start everything at our core. We have an experience action statement. We spent a lot of time early on to really nail down our core values, nail down what we stand for, and then everything else that we do stems from that. That's kind of the secret sauce under the hood that your internal team knows. But I'm going to share a little bit. So our three pillars are really connect, empower, and exceed. So connect is if you just think about that word and you think about what I've been talking about as far as the two lanes that we're in with patients and with staff, and connect, if we do that first and then empower those people. So when you talk about business growth, there's nothing, there's no amount of Google ads that are going to compensate for a terrible culture or just in the wrong mindset in the clinic. So I think that's how we've been able to stay true to this, is we did do that exercise together, and we've really stuck everything that we do touchstones to those concepts.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so true, right? And I think, again, the bigger that you get, the more important that becomes. And at the beginning, it's sort of like, yeah, core values, some mission, some vision, and you're sort of like, okay, I'll put something together. But then the bigger that you get, like, you've got so many different people, and at your level, like thousands of people, right? You got to keep people aligned, and those are the things that do keep people aligned, and then it makes it much easier to hire to that, to empower people, to correct if needed, and then if needed also to fire because of those, they're not matching those core values, and then it just kind of is the beating heart of the organization as it moves forward.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
hard.
go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, um, I think there's two ways to look at that, right? You people putting energy into coming up with those things. It's oh well, it's something that we can throw up on the website. But I think the difference is just really operationalizing your culture, right? So.
Yeah, totally. And so, as you've been helping to expand therapy partners there, is there any particular one change that you've made while being there that you're most proud of?
There's so many things that we've done together, all of us. And I think that's the other important thing, is we don't stay in our silos. So that's probably how I ended up in these interesting dual roles. So I think one of the fun things that we've instituted that I'm really proud of is something called Beyond the Stretch, and it's a newsletter. Since we're talking about marketing, we'll
I
stay in
love
this
it. Yeah.
for a minute. It's called Beyond the Stretch, and it's a newsletter to really just celebrate. I think it's important. It's an external communication, but it celebrates everybody that's working at the brands, and it gives it an opportunity to highlight some of these people, what they're doing. And we do some personal interest stories in there. This month it's coming out. We're doing kind of a special with spring training and baseball and softball, and
Hmm.
I'll give you a little secret, but we've taken pictures of all the executive team we've got. We've got all of these from all the staff. We've got pictures of them playing Little League baseball. We've got just fun things like that, right?
That's
So
fun.
so
Yeah.
it shows the culture that we are very serious about patient care,
Hmm.
but we don't take ourselves too seriously, so we can have fun while we're doing it, right? So that's cornerstone, and then
So for that newsletter, is that something that then goes external to your patient list as well as internal to your team?
so so this the target for this newsletter particularly is for it's for talent acquisition purposes,
Oh,
right?
okay, gotcha.
So
Yeah.
we'd love to have team members that are very much like the ones that we have now, that are that have the same philosophy of when that patient's in front of them, that's the most important thing in the world. So making sure that we're telling our story within those pages and putting it out. Obviously, we list our job openings and things like that. So it becomes a conversation piece. We talk to the students about here's what we do from a student program, and here's the opportunities that exist. And that's directed more to the DCEs for the universities. We look at ourselves as like a partner to them more so than uh, anything else. It's there's just developing the next generation, right, of the people that work in this industry is extremely important. So there's a lot of that runs through that. And I think we've really done a good job of just highlighting this is what we're all about, and this is our story, and please come join our story with us.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's such a critical piece, and I love what you're doing there because many many practices I see aren't necessarily putting as much effort into the marketing for talent. And as you get bigger, that's one of the key things is you got to have a great talent pool of people to bring into the organization to grow. Some people come out, kind of drop off, and so you need to bring new people in to supplement them. If you're not showcasing who you are as a company these days, then and you're just trying to put a job post up on Indeed, you're not going to be very competitive, and we are now. ultra competitive market right now
Oh yeah.
for PTs, OTs, speech, you name it, right? So you have to set the bar high, and they want to work for a place that they're going to really enjoy working at, and so you have to show that. You have to put the effort into it. And I love what you're doing there, like you're taking pictures, making sure that they can connect the exec team. They see opportunities, they see mentorship programs, like all these things. You got to promote it, right? Just like we would to promote for new patients, we got to do that for talent too. So I love what you're doing with that.
It's
And
a
especially from a newsletter perspective, right? So, always a big proponent of newsletters for the practice, going out for patients, but also now for talent, and that's a fantastic thing to do. So Jennifer, for you, obviously you transitioned into Therapy Partners from having your own 9-location practice. Um, And one of the things with the groups as they grow is there's multiple brands now that they have to operate with. So I'm kind of curious for you in terms of those decisions to create a family of brands rather than some clinics go the way of having a unified brand. So just kind of curious what you've seen pros and cons with that and sort of your approach that the group has taken for it.
Sure, and I think there's definitely pros and cons to any way that you decide to consolidate when you do these kind of things. I think a family of brands our our thought process and our purpose here is the idea is to have a local brand, because if you're in a local market, the people know the brand. The people have grown up with the brand. We've acquired brands that are very good, very solid brands that are known for taking really great care of their patients. So when we go into a market and you acquire a really strong brand like that, the last thing you want to do is take away that visibility, take away that brand power, that community recognition. There's ways to do that if you are going to change the brand over time. Yes, of course. But for us, it was keeping that local brand feel for our patients and our staff, and having that really strong, all that operating power of a national platform. So it's kind of trying to have the best of both worlds. So that's what we're doing right now, is trying to keep all of that intact and operate that way. Um, the difficulty with that is if you're in the marketing department, I'll just say this candidly, um, and we all know that from a margin standpoint, physical therapy, we all know that we all operate with relatively thin margins. So there's not necessarily money in even large platforms to have 75 marketing people within your organization. So when you have 25 individual brands and a parent organization, it's a lot to handle multiple channels, to handle individual branding and things like that. Um, that's probably the most challenging component of things, right? Is just that piece of it, just from the marketing, what happens in the back office that nobody sees. But I think I think there's a lot of power in it, though. I think the positives far outweigh the negatives. When you look at, if I put my operations hat on and talk about payer strategy, that becomes a different topic. So that becomes more of a regional strategy, and that's something that you look at. Gee, if we have more practices together, can we get better contracts? Can we get better contracts as individual brands in a unified organization? Or do we do better with consolidating in some areas and not in others? So those are the things that we always are discussing and thinking about as far as long-term strategy. But for now, the small brands,
Yeah.
local feel, local touch, and the power of the large organization behind it. Love it. I love it.
Yeah, and like you said, there's pros and cons either way with that. I know the challenge is from a marketing perspective as you scale is, like you said, being able to implement that for multiple brands now. So I'm kind of curious from your side, from the marketing side, do you approach it as, hey, we create certain marketing campaigns at a larger scale and then we deploy across those different brands, or do we like try to have marketing campaigns that are more dialed into those specific brands depending on their needs? Just kind of curious how you'd like to approach that.
So I think right now, and I'll tell them a little bit of secret sauce, but it's not that secret. So if we look at the state of PT in a lot of these markets, there's so many patients and not enough staff to see them, right? So I think that's a blessing, which is a great thing. That's not the case in all markets. So I like to look at it brand by brand, region by region, market by market. And for instance, we have something that's going on at all times. So we have the digital strategy that's kind of a unified digital strategy, and most of that is an optimization standpoint with the Google Map strategy as well as an SEO and obviously AI now, which if you have strong SEO, that's going to help you in the AI world. And just we could talk about that for 25 hours. It's one of my favorite topics. But anyway, so we have that going on at all times, right? And just trying to maintain those top positions in the local brands. So there is a lot of visibility for people that are searching in the area. You pair that with we have great brand names in the area, so there's great referral relationships. So that's an operations standpoint. We take good care of the patient. They go back, tell their referral source, and they're happy. That continues referring. So we get direct to consumer through digital, as well as what's happening from a relationship standpoint. So those things are happening at all times, right? So that's the baseline. And then someone may call me up and say, we just hired a pelvic health therapist and we need help because we got to get the word out. And then we'll develop a campaign strategy around that. Okay, do we have somebody on the ground? Okay, great. Set up one. We have somebody on the ground. We can do some marketing collateral and get some things out. We can have some type of a sales strategy from that perspective, and then making sure the digital assets reflect that too, right? So if somebody hits your Google map, you have that new service on there. You may be able to do some without paid ads, even just doing social media posting or even on the Google Maps posting out on the Google Maps. So we've got digital strategy behind that. We've got somebody on the ground, hopefully, delivering, and some direct to referral sources that we're already communicating with. So things like that, right? It's what are we trying to accomplish? So I'm a big, what's the goal? Let's evaluate the current status. Where are our opportunities, and do your SWOT analysis, and then what are we going to implement, and then measure it after the fact, right? Did that work? Did it not work? Okay, let's try something else, right? Let's go down this path. So that's kind of how we look at it. We're, like I said, we're very blessed in our markets from a payer strategy perspective. If the payer knows you well, that's helpful. It's a big analysis as far as what are all the pieces and parts, and where are we strong and where are we weak, and what can we do to plug in a little more growth.
The top 10% of PT owners aren't just surviving, they're thriving. But what's their secret? Well, Neil Trickett's new Market to Grow book reveals how the top 10% of PT practices attract top talent and boost profit in their practice. You can learn from their secrets. Visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free copy of Market to Grow. Yes, you heard that right. We are shipping a free copy of Market to Grow to all podcast listeners who want it. Just visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free book. And now back to the show.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear that. I love that what you were saying in terms of the planning part, right? Really looking at, okay, we've got, what do we need here? And then plan that out. Obviously, then you got to test it, or you got to do it. And then it's the KPIs, right? What's the metrics coming in, so that we can then take that information and strengthen or adjust the plan or whatever is needed there. And I see that sometimes for practice, especially as they're growing, right? Let's say you're a one location practice, or even as you start to get to 3, 5, even 10 location practice, from a marketing perspective, a lot of times they'll just throw spaghetti on the wall and see what's happening, right? What's sticking, versus like, hey, let's make a more succinct plan of how we're going to use our marketing dollars, and what in our neighborhood is going to work well. Are we servicing more seniors, or are we servicing a lot of like young athletes, right? So there's going to be different channels that you need to go on, different media, but sometimes we just focus on the channel and not necessarily the the plan, right? What are we trying to overall accomplish here? So I love your strategy that you're focusing there. And obviously, in today's world, we've got so many different channels that people are just all over the place on different things. We're trying to get in front of people. So I'm kind of curious for you, is there any particular marketing channel that you found more success with from, therapy partners?
So if you look at where traffic's coming from, so if we look at, let's talk about talent acquisition, because I think that's one of the things that everybody's super concerned about out there. I think from a channel perspective, there's a lot of opportunity. If you look at the avatars that we're trying to attract, right? And a lot of them live on Instagram right now. And also you've got a lot of professional opportunity on LinkedIn. So I like to play in those two buckets a lot. And if you, there's a ton of channels, and I think depending upon your resources, if you have one person that can do all of that for you, then you can potentially get on more channels, right? And do more things. But I think if I'm looking at, okay, where do I want to have the most impact? I'm definitely on Instagram and on LinkedIn at this point from a talent perspective. Patient perspective, I think I've heard you say on this podcast a couple times, Google is king and still is king and will be king for a while. I tend to really use the Google assets for patient acquisition purposes.
Love that. Yeah. So from the talent side, I 100% agreement, right? So we're looking at people usually, if we're trying to get more, let's say, a lot of times we like to get newer grads, right? Or people that are 1 or 2 years out of school, have got, a couple of years underneath their belt. We're still talking people who are typically in their mid-20s, right? So where are they? They're going to be on Instagram, TikTok. They're trying to develop their professional careers, and they've been exposed to LinkedIn usually in school. And so they've kind of been building their profile on LinkedIn. So I think that's, like you said, a real critical area. And the nice thing is that you can be really, much more targeted with LinkedIn. And people who do put their profile and spend time on their profile on LinkedIn have more of that business mindset. And so they're looking to kind of build themselves, right, and build their own brand, right, if you will. So I think that's a great person to bring into the organization. I love that you're looking at on that line. And then for the patient acquisition, totally agree. Google is still, we've got AI steamrolling ahead here, right? But Google's still there with AI, right? Like the AI overview has become huge on Google. We're going to see AI now in the Google Maps section coming up. We've got ads now within the Google AI overviews. And I was just reading a great article yesterday about how it's really the behavior of people as they start to use these different platforms. And so they're going to use AI, whether that's chat or whether it's the Google AI overview or Claude or any of these other ones. But typically, they're looking at how they are going to answer certain questions, right? So they're looking for more advice through AI and really reading those overviews that way. But then when it comes to really trying to find that local service to help them with that particular problem, so if they're complaining about their back, they're going to try to chat about what can I do to help my back and blah, 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 right? But then, chat will probably recommend PT, an orthopedic doctor, or these kind of things. And then they go, okay, well, maybe I'll go see a physical therapist. Well, they're going to go on Google and they're going to start to look at reviews. They're going to see what's near me in my maps. That's how they start to do their due diligence and compare your website to someone else's website. And so they're doing all of this. We have to look at, okay, how are we going to make sure that we become part of those conversations and those AI overviews? But we still have to be super strong in our Google Maps, and we're going to have to pay to play a little bit too in some of those different competitive markets to get up in the map sections and be in the AI overviews. Yeah, Google is not relinquishing any control over the search industry. They're full speed ahead too in how they can adapt that. And so, kind of curious, Jen, on your side, huge market all over the West Coast, Texas, 140 clinics to market for. What does your team look like? I'm just kind of curious for that.
I'm not okay. So, I have a really strong lean team, which is great. So it is we have someone on the team, Aubrey, who I love the team I work with every single day. Aubrey is great. She's everything that I'm not. Extremely organized. Let me mention extremely organized. She is a great graphic designer. She's a great listener. We get on a call and we problem solve with a regional director in a market. Hey, we're trying to do this, and she's on there, and we're putting this together, and we go back and we create content and launch that. Another person on the team is Ashley Pistori, who's been in the business for quite a while. Back days with ProAxis Physical Therapy. For those of you that know Ashley, I'm giving her a shout out here. She's amazing. She's one of the best storytellers I've ever seen in any brands that I've ever worked with. This woman is quite a storyteller, and she's the engine behind a lot of some of the external stuff that you're seeing out there about therapy partners groups. That is the team currently, and we do have some people in the field that run some of the social media channels, which is great, and we do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
So lean team, strong team, and we have to be very efficient.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing I see too with practice, especially as they scale, is like you don't need a very large marketing team, because you're creating the strategy, you're executing the strategy. A lot of times you might be leaning on some external vendors, things like that you're working with. So you become more of that marketing strategist component of the company there as you scale too. But I think for a lot of clinics, as they get to a certain point, the owner typically starts off doing the marketing, but there becomes that point where they become the bottleneck on that, and then they need to hire someone in to really fulfill that role and make it happen within the clinic.
You bring up a really good point there, Neil. I think as the people that are entrepreneurial enough to start their own businesses, we're the people that we just want to do it ourselves. We can do it. We'll figure it out. We'll do it. But companies like yours, and I think it's a really good thing if a practice owner can look at it and go, be objective. These are the strategists. These are the people that can really help take me to the next level, and just dialing back a little bit of that control and using someone like you. Now, again, but being a partner to that with that firm, and making sure that you're getting a return on your investment and your return on your ad spend and things like that is important. But yeah, I think that is the bottleneck, and I think that's what holds back growth for a lot of companies.
100%. I would say too to our audience out there is that hopefully we're working with some kind of outside vendor to help you, agency, whatever it may be. Obviously website development, SEO. There's so much in the technical side of it that you need specialists, right? You can't learn it. You can't learn it all. It takes a long time. But you have to be a partner. So the time and time again when things fail is usually because you're not communicating. You're not looking at what's important for your clinic or strategizing what you really need, and then working together with that outside vendor to accomplish the goals that you need to have accomplished. It's like, oh, well, they're just going to get me a lot of new patients and I will just let them do their thing, right? And then you wonder why, hey, it's not working. Well, they didn't get, on their end, they didn't get what they needed from you, right? Which is hey, I need to know what's going on in the clinic. What do you really need? Can you send me content? I need pictures, I need video, I need whatever. So it's a partnership, big time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, Therapy Partners is one of the biggest players in the PT industry. I'm curious for you, Jennifer, how do you keep yourself moving forward, learning? Who do you learn from? What resources do you like to pull from to keep ahead of the market?
Everywhere. I'm a classic over. I will be a student for the rest of my life. I would say the top group. If I on a day to day, Seth Godin. Anybody in marketing that doesn't think about Seth as, are you really a marketing person? Neil Patel, I think, has a lot of good stuff out there. And then people like Peter Drucker in business world, yeah, I'll even watch Russell Brunson and then let's see, who else? Donald Miller, building a story brand, probably one of my favorite of all
Yeah,
time.
great
If I
stuff.
have to put one on top, I would put that one on top.
Hmm.
That one
Yeah.
on top. And then obviously I've done, because I did not have a marketing degree. I went to did some certificate programs through like Harvard and Northwestern Kellogg School for Sales, and just piling on the knowledge because if there's a gap. The more that I can know and the more that I can develop myself, the more that I can help our brands, the more I can help other people. And I'm all ears as far as learning, and then learning all this new stuff with AI has been fantastic for me. I've learned how to create my own AI agents. I have a team of about 12 of those that I use for different things, and so it's been pretty fun for me to really go. I've gone hardcore AI in the last year, so
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're all, it feels like we're on a roller coaster and we're just hanging on by our fingernails
yeah,
on the back seat of the roller coaster on this AI journey, right?
for
Because
sure.
things are just moving so rapidly. But again, it's one of those where you have to look at how can you implement that within your clinic. Marketing, there's a ton of things that you can do within marketing from an AI perspective. Um, and yeah, I think it still comes back to like for a lot of our audience out there, a lot of our um, practice owners, they're still kind of in the weeds a lot, right? And you have to be in the weeds at the beginning, but then as you grow to that, larger clinic, 2 location, 3 location, 4 location, like you can't really be treating a lot of, as you start to scale your business, you have to be the CEO of your practice and you have to have the time to research, to learn, and then, see what all these different aspects, whether it's marketing, operations, finance, learning all these key things on a continuous basis. Like it's just part of who you are. And you typically, like you said, as an entrepreneur, we're doing those things, but it's really having the time to do that and making sure that you protect your time enough so that you're not in patient care so much or you're having to put out so many fires in the practice so that you have some time to learn and strategize, implement, execute, all those good things. So just kind of curious from your end, is there any piece of particular marketing strategy advice that you think most PT clinics might overlook?
I think it's that talent side.
Mm,
I think the top of the funnel marketing for your future, right? For future growth, because that number one restriction in growth right now in healthcare is talent. So if you're not thinking about that and you're a business owner and you're throwing ads up on Indeed or the job boards, well, so is everyone else. And you've got to, I think, creating like a value proposition, making sure you're positioning yourself in your clinic and your company. So when people take a look at you from a talent lens, they know what you're all about. They know what you bring to the table for them and for their career. And I think being more intentional about that is key for a lot of the companies that are out there. And on your owned assets, when we say owned assets, we say that, well, we mean like your own website, right? Even your Google Maps, there's things you can do there. But I think that would be a really good thing that a lot of private practices could do.
yeah, 100%. And often we're just kind of cruising along because we're operating with what we have and we're thinking about other things, reimbursement, like billing issues, whatever it may be, right? And we don't have attention on, are we generating a consistent interest from talent, right? For people that are interested to come work for us because, we may have a big opportunity that comes our way where we can expand and we have new patients coming in and we've got to meet that demand. And if we don't have anybody in the pipeline, it takes a while to spin up your pipeline. It might take 2-3 months to get enough traction in your marketing for talent where they're actually going to start to reach out. And you're already like 2-3 months behind if you haven't started that yet. Or you never know, like someone decides to relocate, right? Or their husband got a job somewhere, or they quit, or whatever it may be the case. You're 2 weeks away from now having to fill that spot. And if you haven't started, or you don't have the machine continuously going for talent, then now the whole business is strained, right? Trying to pick up from that person going. So just like you were talking about the newsletters, Jennifer, I remember back in the day in our practice, our patient newsletter, which was a direct mail piece, a printable piece, we used to send that out to all of our patient list. But then once a quarter, we would add on about 1,000 PT and PTAs to that list, and they would also get our patient newsletter. We didn't have anything specific for talent at the time, but it was just that continuous promotion to the PTs and PTAs in the area. And we did CEU clinics and all kinds of different things there. We just put effort into that because it was, even at that time, difficult to hire for therapists because it was so competitive in South Florida. So in today's market, it's just something you can't overlook. You just have to be moving forward with that, right? So Jennifer, for you, being from a kind of a CMO standpoint and working with, see people on your team that are more like marketing directors and things like that, just kind of curious, do you have any advice for marketing directors of growing clinics, and what can they do to expand sometimes with limited resources?
I think just kind of reflecting back to what we were talking about, choosing your channels. If you look at what can I do for this practice from a marketing standpoint, there's 1,000 things you could do for your practice. And what you need to do is take a look at what are the top 3 things you can do that are going to make the most impact, and put your effort there. And so I think number 1, having a strategy, and then number 2, don't try to boil the ocean, right? Try to put your focus on the 3 things that'll make the most change, and then evaluate, is what I'm doing moving the needle here? And if it's not, then okay, diagnose what's not working, and then let's shift the strategy and go a different direction. But I think doing that, and then knowing that in a small practice, and I did this with my own practice, so I'm well aware, you feel you have to just make sure that you're not afraid to ask people to help you. If you need video, you need help, reach out to the team. Hey guys, could somebody shoot me just some B-roll that I need something for this or this or this? And just bring in the other teams. The worst thing I've ever seen is you have your marketing person that doesn't know any of your people. They're the person that comes in, takes a couple pictures and goes away. That person should be sitting at the strategy table with the practice owner, with your clinic directors, talking about, what are our needs, where do we need help, and working as a team, right? Not in that little silo. Your marketing team is not the pretty flyer department. Your marketing person should be at the table with you as you talk about strategy, as you talk about what you're doing for expansion. I think that's 100%. My little soapbox moment there.
100% agree.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at.
100% agree with that. Yeah, and I look at it as, the marketing director is there to basically take the stories from within the clinic that are all happening, right, and disseminate that to the world. So they absolutely need to know what is going on within the clinic. They need to be part of that conversation. They need to be listening. They need to be, having the other staff members tell them what good things are happening. How can we and then think about how can we promote those great things, right? So they need to be really an integral part of what you do at your practice. And I love what you say too, like they're a big part of that strategy, that conversation, like what direction are we going here as a company, right? Because we're the fuel that brings in the new patients and the talent, and we need to be part of the overall conversation and strategy. So fantastic. So Jennifer, just kind of curious, if you had to start over today, was there anything that you might do differently?
I think I would, if I were really starting over, I would probably do a business minor in school, or at least to start that part of my life sooner. Because that plane got built as we were taking off on the runway. So I think if I had a little foreshadowing and knew that I was not going to just be a clinician, I think I would have done some things early, maybe learned a little bit more about finance, a little bit more of those just basic building blocks of business, right? And have that under my belt, and then the rest we can build as we're taking off. But I think that's the one thing I would change.
Great advice. Great advice on that. So for our listeners out there, if they wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you and find out more about your story?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to get me is on LinkedIn. So I'm just Jennifer Allen, Arizona. That's easy, right?
That's easy.
You can just easy breezy. You can reach out to me there. Happy to talk to anybody and chat stuff. And yeah, I love what I do. I love this industry, and we're the most important musculoskeletal people in the world, and we need to tell our stories more as an industry.
100%. Yeah.
So.
I mean, I always look back at, so when I was in practice, right, starting in 2002, right, I always remember looking back then, and it was like, you're basically just trying to get physician referrals. That's all we were trying to do, right? There was no like thinking about direct to consumer as much, maybe, some word of mouth and stuff, but you still ultimately had to get a prescription, and you had to have the doctor's blessing and all that kind of stuff. We have so many more opportunities today than we ever did there. But looking back at that time, one thing I was like, hey, we were 100% insurance, and having to look at the chiropractic profession, and basically they were all cash, pretty much, right? And so they were having to go direct to consumer, cash, market themselves. They got the business training in school, right? They were pushed that during their chiropractic schooling. And so we've kind of emerged here in the PT profession. It's taken some time, but we're getting there, right? We're getting to the point where it's like, okay, well, insurance is failing in so many places. Like, we have to be more direct to consumer. People are willing to pay cash for our services, or other things that we can do. We just need to know more of the business skills, more of the marketing skills, in order to be really proficient and good at going direct to consumer in the market and creating that demand for these valuable services that we have. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today. Fantastic hearing your story, your philosophies. Congratulations on your success and the Therapy Partners Group's success. Love to see you guys keep growing over there. And for our audience out there, thank you for being on the Practice Marketing Podcast here today. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to us. We also have our YouTube channel where all these great podcasts are up on there. And then, of course, at practicepromotions.net, we've got tons of free downloads and advice for you on how to market your clinic and grow. And so this is Neil Trickett from the Practice Marketing Podcast, wishing you much success in your practice.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it.